Welcome everybody to our Aladtec for Healthcare webinar this morning. I'm Eric Hahn. I'm one of the system specialists here at Aladtec. And today's webinar will just be about a 45-minute presentation. We'll talk a little bit about who Aladtec is. We'll also walk you through kind of a high-level overview of the system. At any point, if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to post them in the chat window. And when I'm finished, I'll answer any of those questions as we, before we adjourn. So kind of walking through you a little bit about kind of an overview. We'll talk a little bit about those things today. So a little bit about Aladtec. We've been around since 2002. We are completely web-based, and we're here in River Falls, Wisconsin. So that's where our home office is. Everything happens right here. We're about 30 minutes east of Minneapolis, St. Paul, if you can kind of envision that on a map. And so, as I mentioned, we've been around since 2002. We actually started with a local ambulance service. They came to us looking for a web-based scheduling system. Since then, Aladtec has grown to several other industries, not only the ambulance side, but we've also gone the completely public safety as well as healthcare. And currently we have several different customers. Here's our building. I'll show you a little bit about that. We're all hosted here. We do everything here. Not only our support team, our sales team, but also our development team and management as well. We're also across the country. So we started, with that local ambulance service, and now we're upwards of about 2,300 customers nationwide and about 145,000 users across the US and Canada. So we have quite the experience. Agencies of all sizes. We have services that are very small in nature, small EMS services, and then we have several other services between that and upwards of about, I believe, about 1,800 members that are using us all across all of the industries. We also do offer some additional things, taking a look at a little bit of our team. Everything is in-house, as I mentioned, from engineers to sales and support. When you pick up the phone and you call us, you are talking to us. You are talking right to us. There's no phone tree. There's no additional things that you need to push. You are immediately connected to our support team, a greatest support team on earth. And people will tell you about that if you know some of the nearby customers that might be using us. Couple of other things here just before we get kind of kicked off. We can be accessed from anywhere. So we are completely cloud-based 24/7. Any internet connected device, including computers, laptops, including tablets, smartphones. So you'll instantly be able to see that. And since we are cloud-based, it's an instant version of our current version. So nothing that needed to be downloaded or anything like that. It's always up to date and always real time in nature. One of the other things that does separate us is we offer a free and unlimited training and support. So this is our support team. As you become a customer, what you'll notice is we don't just pass along a piece of software and you're on your own to figure it out. We walk with you every step of the way, and that is included. So no extra costs. We do all the setup, the training, unlimited telephone support as long as you're one of our customers. We also offer schedules that fit you. So we have several different services that use us and several different types of scheduling. And so very unique in the sense of we can take the types of patterns or the types of scheduling that you use, and we can actually plug those into the system, and you can utilize our system in multiple different types of ways and configurations. So as we look through the system, you'll see some of that. And so what we'll do from here is we'll actually give you that overview. We're going to take a look at the system, as I mentioned, as a high-level type of overview. If you do have any questions along the way, feel free to post those in our questions tab, and then we'll be able to answer those. So let me go ahead and kick off, and we'll take a look at our demo. So what we will be looking at today is just a generic demo. We'll show you essentially from start to finish of a majority of the features, and we'll also show you some of the intricacies of those features. But by no means is this going to be really kind of tapping into every single step. We're going to be really kind of focusing on the main points. We'll be looking at things mostly as an administrator. I'll show you what it would look like from a member's perspective as well. But the first thing I like to kind of point out is not only that free training, free upgrades, and that free support, but those are part of what we offer. And so as we look at everything from here, keep that in mind, is that we don't expect you to remember everything from this standpoint. We just want to kind of make sure that you know exactly what's going on. So as we look at things as an administrator, one of the things that I do like to recommend at this point is we are browser based. So we don't have any specific browser that we recommend, but we just recommend a modern browser. Things like Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, I think 11 and above, Edge, Safari, anything that'll automatically update itself, because we're constantly pushing new features, adding in some things that might speed things up, some easier to use functions. You'll even notice we've got a banner there, so we're going to be updating some things here over the next couple of days. But then on the right-hand side, you'll see what we call our dashboard. So everybody does have their own login and password credentials. So they're logging into the system. They'll see things for themselves. And so as they log in, everybody's coming to this home screen immediately as they look. And then we've got a dashboard that shows all of the details of information of things that might be important, the things that are going on now, even things that might need your attention. So our system wide open does keep track of the schedule. It also does keep track of any changes to the schedule. We actually call those our change requests. So from this standpoint, essentially we have 4 of those. We do have a time off management piece. So members would be able to check their schedules. They'd also be able to interact with the system by going into the system and then requesting time off. So it does have that time off management. So it also does have banks of hours if you did want to keep track of accrual banks. In that sense, if you bank a certain number of hours per month of sick leave, then members would be physically be able to know how many hours in my bank currently, how many hours for this request, how many hours after it's been approved. So that time off management piece is number 1. Number 2 is we do have a trades management piece. So if you allow trading of shifts within your department or your agency, then the system will allow you to facilitate those as well. The third thing is what we call our sign-up. So think of that as in the future when you have any openings, whether it be for a vacancy or somebody's out sick, the system does allow you to do that as well. So it can manage those sign-ups, so it allows you to manage those, and then you can keep those there as well. So from there, that signups feature also does have what we call a coverage alert. So that coverage alert is allows you to send out a text and email notification of those vacancies or those openings, and then allow you to staff accordingly to whatever rules that you might have in place. The last thing is our extra hours. Think of that as if you have worked past your normally scheduled shift. Maybe you got held over for some reason, or you came in early. This allows you to submit those extra hours, so it's outside of your normal scheduled shift and allows you to get that information in there. Administrator would then go ahead and approve those. So all of those are changes to the schedule, are change requests, and from there you'll be able to see that. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to enter some full screen here just so you can see a little bit better. All those will come here when it needs your attention as an administrator. So in this case, you see we've got some samples in here, but we'll take a look at those as we look at the schedules. The system also does have a very robust member database. It does keep track of not only contact information, but it does keep track of immunizations, certifications, licenses, anything that you wanted to assign to a specific individual. You can configure that to customize that to your needs. And so in this case, since I'm an administrator, I'm seeing that there are some things that are expired. There are some things that are going to be expiring here within the next 60 days. So it does have a very robust member database keeping track of all kinds of information. We also have an events calendar. Think of this as the non-working calendar, things that you don't necessarily have to staff for. Maybe those are department meetings, training opportunities, PR events, open houses, really anything you wanted to keep out in front of everyone. Since we're we're hoping that you'd be logging into, and your members will be logging into the system quite frequently too. By keeping those out in front of people, we're really that one place where you'd go for a majority of your information, especially when it revolves around your schedules and your personnel. So first thing I like to jump into after we've kind of taken a look at kind of the overview of the dashboard is we'll look at some of the customizations that you're able to do. Now keep in mind, we do offer that additional setup, so we'd help you through that. But one of those pieces is our member database configurator. So you can configure the database in exactly what you want it to keep track of. You can go in, you can just drag and drop from this left-hand side if you wanted to add some different fields from the options. One of the things I do recommend is as people do move forward, we actually schedule a setup call. What that setup call does is we fine-tune the member database and we work through the setup so that as you go live, then everything will be ready to go. So very easily configurable from your end. It doesn't have a bunch of static fields that you have to keep there. You can customize it to your exact needs. And then really becomes managing the data itself. So the database, and when we take a look at this generic demo, you'll see we've got quite a bit of information in here. So you can keep as much information as you want to, or as little information as you want to. Couple of things from here. It is your data. At any time you need to get that information out, you can actually export this information into a CSV or a spreadsheet. So if that means updating some state records, pulling out information for training officers or training people, or just getting the information out, just any kind of readable format, it is your data. You can get that out. We're also an active database, so you can keep track of certain other types of features within the system. One good feature is you wanted to keep track of doing some filtering. So if I wanted to filter it out based on, let's say, the employee type, and if I wanted to see all of my people that might be my part-timers, then I can filter that out to show me those specific people within the database. And so I can keep track of those, or if I wanted to add any types of specialties or any qualifications that are unique or specific, that will pare this list down. So then it gives me that option to utilize the system that way. But just a lot of data, but we actually make it easier for you to do some of those filtering and filter options. You can even save filters. The system also does have a communications tool built right in. So the system can send out text and email notifications. Just a simple group message, so nothing to respond or reply to. So you can pare the list down, send that out, and then utilize the communications tool that is built right in. So if I want to send out a text message to everybody, I can just send that out as a group message. Nothing to respond to or reply to, just being able to broadcast that out pretty quickly and easily. We'll jump in and we'll pick on Nicholas a little bit. Diving into a little bit, one layer deeper, you'll notice each person does have their own profile or their own My Info page. A few things I'll point out here. We do have the ability to create some additional access levels. What that does is allows you to give people permission to do things on the system. So for instance, if you're a scheduler and you have permission to edit the schedules and approve any of those time off requests or any of those change requests, you can give people permission for that. Or if you want to set up some read-only, maybe you have somebody else that needs to just be able to view the schedules and not be able to edit anything, you can set that up. So we can create those access levels, and essentially it's giving people permission to do things on the system. We can also set up some work groups. So think of this as the working rules. So things that you can set as far as those change requests, you can make sure that those are specific to them. There's some rules you can set up. You can also set up some work limits. So if somebody can only work, let's say your part-timers can only work a certain number of hours in a given week, then you can set that to run in the background. So then in the event either you're scheduling someone or somebody signs up, you can either have that throw up a red flag for you, or you can just simply do not allow. So you can set up some work limits for each group of people, and you can create as many work groups as you need to. I mentioned those messaging options. Your members will be able to choose how they want those delivered. And then also you can set up the work qualifications based on schedules and positions, because we want to make sure that the right people work in the right spots at the right time. And we do work through the work qualifications even during our setup time as we set up the system. So that is one unique thing about us, is we can set up a custom demo and walk you through and personalize that. So if you are interested in that for your agency, let us know. We can set that up. We can pull in your roster, your schedules, and we can specifically walk you through the system with your own information plugged in there. So we'd love to do that. Let's take a look at the schedule. So what you'll notice here is we have several different ways to see the same information. So in this case, you can default it to 1. Our weekly shifts view is going to show you kind of a week at a glance. This is where you can see several different things on the system. So you can see, in this case, you can see if you have any open shifts. You can also see if you've got any trades. You've got some trade hours. If I scroll down here, you'll also see some additional schedules that will point out things like extra hours, those signups, trades, time off, and events. Those will all be displayed at on any of the work schedule views. You'll also see in this case, you show separate schedules and then the types of positions and then who's in those positions specifically. So the weekly shifts view, if you like to see things more of in a daily view, this does show you that there's things like a daily summary view is going to show you kind of a snapshot of the day, specifically today. You've got some options that you can turn certain things on and off. And keep in mind, you can print off any of our work schedule views. So a lot of people are actually printing this off. They'll add some notes to it for the day, maybe some things that are going on. So it is very easy to print those off. Obviously, being a tech company, we don't recommend printing, primarily because as soon as you push print, since we are something that is real time, that printed copy could go out of date pretty quickly. So I'll kind of keep that in mind, but definitely take a look. We've got several different types of views if you want to see things in kind of a daily view, a weekly view, even kind of a monthly calendar type of view. This is a great view when you're looking as an administrator to see what things do I need to approve. So in this case, you can see I've got a time off request for Nicholas for tomorrow. I can actually go ahead and click on that and then go ahead and approve or deny that request to make some changes to it that will go with that record, even for notes. They're going back and forth. Here you can see the trades, you can see some signups. So these are pending administrator approval as well. So you'll be able to see quite a few things when you're kind of working through your own workflow of the day. Keep in mind, as we put in schedules and we put in additional information, you can work as far ahead or as far in advance as you wanted to. We've got some services that are just working on just the day or maybe tomorrow, even some that are actually working either a week or two in advance, since you can see all the schedules into the future there. So definitely, as we look at things, you can see what view that you might want to default it to, because you can default it to 1, but then the members will be able to see the other views from there. A couple of things to point out here as well. We do have the ability to add some minimum staffing. So if you do have a certain number that you're trying to keep track of as far as your minimums, this will flag it if it does drop below that. We also do have a daily notes feature. Think of this as a whiteboard that you might have on the floor or in the department. You can add some information there. This is electronic, so really takes it to the next level. Administrators can add some information. Members would be able to view that. It just looks like a little post-it note there. Also, when you're approving anything that happens on the system, those will show up a little bit differently. Won't show as approvals, but in this case, like for instance, if I go ahead and approve Nicholas for that vacation time request, notice it pulls him off the schedule, and then it shows as an open spot there. Now you'll also notice that we do have that coverage alert I mentioned. What that allows you to do is to send out a text and email notification. It'll broadcast it out. It will skip those people that are already scheduled. It'll skip those people with time off. And also, it'll specifically look for those people that are qualified for that. So in this case, it's looking for somebody that's qualified for the ER in the triage position from 7 to 1500. So it'll send it out simultaneously, allow the members to come back to the system to sign up for it. Or we can also add in a staggered notification if you do have any specific rules that you have in place. So looking at things like total number of hours or accepted or declined or things like that. So it does have that ability to do that. So So as we kind of work through, here's the schedules. You know, I'm going to move into some things that administrators might look at specifically. So these, the members can see these schedules. So we'll look at it from an administrative side, but I did want to mention from the member side, and we'll just pick on Nicholas just a little bit more. So from a member side, it's very easy to navigate the system. The dashboard is going to show them any upcoming shifts and any events that are pertaining to them, any available trades on the trades board. By default, our members are not allowed to see the entire member database, so you can keep that just for your administrators, but they are able to see their own My Info page. And then when they click on schedules, they're able to see their own name highlighted. So when they're scheduled to work or when they have any time off or anything else that's happening on the system. And then the members can interact with the system by looking at the My Schedule page. So this is where the members can go in and they can take a look at their schedules, how it is affected in kind of a monthly format. They can actually interact with the system by clicking on a scheduled shift and initiating a time off request or initiating a trade request. They can also add in some extra hours. They can sign up for shifts. We can even have this sync up with their home calendar or their spouse's calendar. So it does give you a subscription link. It'll automatically update whether you're using Google or Outlook or iCal. So it'll automatically update that information for them. So from the member side, it's pretty easy. I also do love to show our mobile version. So we are very mobile friendly. What this does allow you to view is kind of a mobile format. So nothing to download or install on your phones, just be able to pull up the browser of your device and then go to the link that we've established. And then the members will be able to see any of their upcoming shifts, available trades, time off, open shifts, and it will format to that size of screen. And then once again, they can go and see the daily summary view, see when they're scheduled or who else is scheduled with them. And then they can interact with the system by going to the My Schedule page, clicking on their scheduled shift, and then initiating time off requests and trade requests right from here. So very user-friendly from the mobile side. As I mentioned, nothing to download or install, so nothing that they have to keep on their phones, and it will automatically update as we push out new features and new functionality. So very easy from the member side to navigate the system. You know, with over 145,000 users, you know, we very rarely train any members because it's pretty easy, and we also have a great help section that they can take a look at, some help videos. So back as an administrator, these 4 tools are available for administrators to use. And so as we go into kind of thinking about more of the scheduling, we have different ways you can schedule. The first one I like to show is our repeats and rotations. So if you do have patterns of work, maybe some FTE type of equivalencies, maybe you have you know, kind of a 2-week pattern. Really, we haven't been able to find a pattern that we haven't been able to plug into our system. So keep that in mind if you have some unique patterns. But essentially, the repeats and rotations allows you to set up that pattern. You choose the member, choose what position and schedule, and then you choose whatever type of pattern that you wanted to schedule them for. So in this case, if I want to set up, like for instance, a 2-week pattern, and this person is you know, going to be in an RN position, and let's say the first week they work Wednesday, Thursday, and then you know, Monday and Tuesday, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, kind of a every other weekend. You can set up that pattern and schedule them out, in this point up to 2 years out, and then it becomes managing the day-to-day. Or if you have some admin staff, maybe they're working Monday through Friday, they're not working on the weekends, pretty easy to set that up. Or if you have unique patterns that you wanted us to set up, really we can set those up, and all you'd have to do is just to schedule those people into those spots. So repeats and rotations, that's how you can set up their pattern or their permanent schedules. And then the hourly editor is really where you can make the changes on the day-to-day. So this shows you kind of a block of time, 24-hour period. This is where you can establish some guidelines as far as your administrator. So I'm an administrator, I can go in and I can make some changes to this schedule because I have that privilege. Each time that I select a position, it will show those people that are qualified in the bottom section. And then I'll also be able to see any availability if they've added kind of availability within the system. Can also see who's already scheduled. I can even pull in some information as far as a calculator of the number of hours that people are working. I also have the ability to put people on time off without them having to go to the system. So for instance, if Philip here called in sick this morning, I can go in and I can put Philip on sick leave. I can even type a note here. Maybe he called in at 0600. I always say that this does not circumvent any rules that you have in place as far as any call-ins. And so once I've approved that, there's no additional steps. So Philip is actually off the schedule and shows as that sick leave. And so then if I need to backfill that position, I can schedule someone right into that spot. Or if I just need to kind of leave it in the sense that maybe in this case, since I've got some minimum staffing on this demo, I might need to schedule somebody in so I can see, okay, it looks like Dan has marked himself available. I just select Dan. I just click add, and then Dan is the one that has assumed that position, in that case from 7 to 1500. So it's very easy to manage the day-to-day. We also do have some dragging and dropping. So if you do have some people that can be assumed in a different capacity, maybe they can be plugged into different roles, you can actually do some dragging and dropping on the day. So if that's from one schedule to the other, or one position to the other, it's very easy to manage those from that capacity. This will show some minimums. So in this case, looks like I've got some minimum staffing that I haven't met from 2300 to 07. I can immediately broadcast that coverage alert we talked about even from this screen. So this helps you manage the day-to-day, the day-to-day options, the day-to-day movement that people might have during that day. We also do have the ability to create some different time types. So think of this as anything that's regular and anything else. So if that's a pay differential, that's overtime. If there's a difference that they can be a lead, or if they've been called back for any reason, so you can designate that on the schedules, and then everything on the schedule will actually filter out into the reports. So our hourly editor is really kind of making the changes on the day-to-day. Keep in mind too, not only do we schedule a setup call where we fine-tune the system prior to rollout, but we also do offer free and unlimited training. So what we would do is we would schedule you with one of our trainers. It's a very similar format. We typically go over the main things that a scheduler or anybody administrating the system would do, and make sure that they know exactly what they do. So we don't expect you to remember everything from here, but you can bring in some additional people and have them, just join that training. And so we don't just pass on that piece of software and you're on your own to figure it out. We walk with you every step of the way. Our typical rollout time frame is between 2 to 4 weeks. So if somebody says, hey, I'm interested in moving forward, we can get you rolled out pretty quickly. So you don't have to wait for us to build anything, 6 months down the road. We can fit it within your time frame. So even we've got some services that have just became customers this last week. They're planning on going live January 1, so we can get you rolled out pretty quickly. So one of the other things, transparency is really big for us. So from the standpoint of the change requests, we've got a log that shows every change request and a date and timestamp for that. So you'll know exactly who's done what from an administrative standpoint. And then we also have, hands down, the #1 feature in our system is our system log. Every action is going to be logged, so you'll know exactly who did what, even me repositioning Beth on the schedule just a few times. You'll also be able to track usage. You can even drill it down in the event somebody does have a question or they have a complaint. You can drill it down to the action taken by who was affected. So some great transparency and a great audit trail to show you those. Kind of staying along the same lines as reports, all of our reports are printable and exportable. So as long as everything is on the schedule, it will actually filter out into the reports. So if we take a look at Nicholas, for instance, we're taking a look at the pay period. We can set up some different view options. We can really format this report exactly how you wanted it to be displayed. And then once again, you can print or you can export this to a CSV and do any additional calculations. But this will pull in everything from their regularly scheduled shifts to any extra hours that are outside of those, any PTO, and any additional. It'll even calculate some overtime automatically through, if you have set up a threshold of overtime, you can set that up. So the scheduled time report's going to show you start and stop times, as well as schedules and positions. And so you can easily format that report to your own view. The summary report is really a great numbers report, and this is best served to run a longer period of time. A great example is if you wanted to see a year's worth of how much overtime have we paid out, or how much sick leave have we occurred during this year or quarter. This is a great report to run. Then you can see all those totals. Once again, you can print it off, you can export it out. Maybe that's giving you some leverage to go to the board and say, hey, we're looking for some additional staff, and here's why. So very easy to run those types of reports within the system. Included with our system is you'll have 200 gigabytes worth of storage, so plenty of space to put in things like SOPs, SOGs, contracts. You can even put in things like administrative files, personnel folders or files. You can put in training videos, training links, training materials. Very easy to utilize that storage since we are cloud-based. People don't have access or don't need access to the server at the hospital or the clinic. They're able to pull it up wherever they are. So you can add that information in. Plenty of storage space is included with that. And then we also do have a time clock option. This does allow you to punch in and punch out virtually. You can set that up. You can set up some kiosks or some dedicated computers for them to punch in and out of. The biggest benefit is it will track and will compare the scheduled time. So if someone's scheduled from 7 to 1500, if they have clocked in either late or early, you can set a grace period, but then it'll ask them for a reason. So we do have a time clock option available. It's a virtual time clock. And then our forms tool is really over and above the schedule. So this allows you to essentially go paperless with a lot of things that you're doing. If you're passing any paper slips or forms or anything like that, currently you can make those electronic. We have several samples that we have from any of the industries that we work with. And so when you're creating those forms, a good example is we've got coaching and counseling has been a pretty popular one. When you've got tough conversations to, with subordinates or any other people that you might be working with, you can actually document those. You can type in the information here, and then just go ahead and put some information here. Each one of those, looks like I've got some required fields. Each one of those reports it can be submitted. It can be submitted in the field. It can be submitted wherever you would need to. They can also be designated as sending a specific notification if those are submitted. So in this case, if HR needs to be notified that there's been a coaching and counseling form submitted, all of those forms will then dump out into their own report. So then you can do some additional tracking. So you can do some filter options. You can add in, different time frames. So it's very easy to utilize those forms. And as I mentioned, we've got services that have gone completely paperless across the country. One of them that uses our system for things like their vehicle check sheets, their internal types of checks. They use it for anything and everything that you can think of, drug box checks. They're averaging 1,400 forms submitted per month. So a very good tool that is included. You can, it's unlimited the number of forms you create, unlimited number of forms that you would submit. You can even create your own. So it's very easy to just simply design your own form and drag and drop. Drag and drop's a great feature within our system. You can pull information from the design options. Maybe you need a signature box or an attachment. So very easy to create your own, but we also help you create those if you have some already in place. So the forms tool is included. As I mentioned, you can use it for any types of internal types of paper that you might be wanting to replace, or maybe you're using something that's maybe a little bit clunky and you want to use our system. The benefit is we're coming to that one location for a majority of that information. Last things I wanted to point out from here, as well as we do have a great help section. So not only do we walk you through the system, but we've created some great help videos. So from the member side, it's pretty easy to navigate. These three are probably the most important. So we've got documentation for all of the features within the system, and you can simply see those. We go over several of these things during our training workshop, and that's unlimited and included. But you can take a look at some of those as far as reference goes. Also, when we think about our support team, we are available 8 to 5 Central Time. and we can answer those. Our support team is available. We also have an emergency contact information, so if it's outside our normal business hours, you can contact us. Or if you wanted to send an email, we even do have a chat function if you wanted to chat with us. So our support team is available and included. And then when we take a look at the setup, as I mentioned before, we would love to be able to take your roster, copy your schedules, be able to plug that in to our system to really give you kind of a hands-on demo, allow you to really kind of test drive it for yourself. But during that time, we look at the setup, and so there are different things we can set up within the system that we can really kind of fine-tune it to your exact needs. One of the last things I love to show is we do have a required messages feature. So this is a great feature if you are needing a read receipt. So we're hoping we'd be a system that you'd be logging into quite frequently too. So if we pick on Nicholas again, the next time that Nicholas logs into the system, he can click around all he wants to, but he can't get any further until he checks that checkbox that says he agrees that he read and understood this message. Now, I can't guarantee they've read it or understood it, but at least in some way, shape, or form, they're accountable for it. So once they click continue, they can get into the system. So we've got not only some transparency, but we've got some accountability pieces within the system. So that's really kind of a high-level overview and what I wanted to kind of point out. Keep in mind, I was just kind of pointing you in the right directions. If you wanted to sign up for a free demo, a free generic demo to take a look at the functionality, you certainly can. If you wanted to call one of our sales reps as well, we can set up that custom demo so you can see exactly how the system would work for your department. So I thank you for your time. If you do have any questions, definitely let us know now. We can leave some time. Otherwise, if you did have some questions, you can also email. We've got our contact information into the GoToMeeting here. But yeah, we've got one question. One question that somebody has asked here. It says, how about for payroll? So can we send information to payroll? So all of our reports are exportable and printable. So you can export this information into a CSV file. So if your payroll software allows you to do an import of that information, you can seamlessly pull that information in. So we can populate that payroll information. So very easy to do that. How much does it cost? It really depends on how many members that you would have in the system, and we can definitely want to put you in contact with your sales rep for that. But everything that we've shown you even today is included with the system, including that support, including that setup, and including that training. Once again, I would just want to thank you for your time. And if you wanted that free 14-day trial, you've got that link here. Otherwise, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any specific questions. We'd love to answer those, and we'd love to talk you through those things. So.